Join me in the studio today for this Mat Pilates session. We'll be doing some movement for strength and some stretching for stillness. Stepping onto the mat, we're going to cross one foot over top of the other and bend through the legs, slowly coming down onto the mat. Rolling down, we're going to reach the arms up overhead, stretch the legs out long, and we'll begin with 100, peeling up head, neck, and shoulders and lifting those legs to 45 degrees. Inhaling for 5 and exhaling for 5. 10 full sets here to get you to 100 pulses. Keep the head, neck, and shoulders lifted and keep that gaze forward. Avoid looking up to the ceiling and placing strain in the neck. Keep the shoulders rolled down and lengthen through the arms. Keep those legs zipped together. Go ahead and lower back down. Next, we're going to be going into a series of roll-ups. So we're going to roll up, reach down, stack up through the spine, and then roll back down onto the mat. Inhale as you lengthen your arms. Exhale, tuck the chin to chest, roll forward, reach down towards the mat, stack up tall through the spine on the inhalation, and exhale as you roll back down. Try to make this movement as smooth as possible. Think about articulating through the spine and peeling one vertebrae at a time. And as you stack up tall, really stacking that spine nice and straight with the shoulders over top of the hips. And then rolling back down again, we're melting down one vertebra at a time. This is about smooth motion and not jerking yourself to get upright. We also want to think about keeping those feet rested on the mat. If you struggle to do that, taking the feet about hip distance apart and flexing through the heels can be a help. Make sure that you're using that breath. Exhalation on the exertion, which would be the rolling portion, rolling up and rolling back. On this next roll up, we're going to add a twist. So we're going to come over to the right side. And then we're going to recenter as we roll back down. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, roll forward, twisting through the spine as you do so that both hands reach over the left leg. And then coming up to the right leg. And we're just maintaining that C curve through the spine as we roll up and twist. And then we just simply roll back, recenter through the spine. Again, here we want to have smooth motion and articulation through the spine rather than jerking or thrusting the body forward. We want control and precision, and this should all feel very good for the back. Both when we're lifting up and moving forward, it should not result in any pain, particularly in the low back afterward. It should leave you feeling elongated and comfortable. Now coming to seated, we're going to move into rolling like a ball. So we're going to bring the knees up, hold on to the shins here, and we're going to inhale as we roll back to the shoulder blades and exhale as you roll forward. If you find that you're having difficulty balancing at the top and your toes tip forward to the mat, that's fine. Just pick them back up, find that balance, and then prepare to roll again. We want to think about maintaining that ball shape, the same distance from the chest to the knees, and the same distance from the heels to the glutes. On this next one, we're going to complicate it a bit by reaching the legs out long in front and reaching the arms to the side. Inhale as you roll back, exhale, roll forward, extend, and then tuck back in. We're maintaining that C curve of the spine and just lengthening out both the legs and the arms at the top. Balancing and reaching forward, which is going to require your core to work to stabilize in that position. And right here, we're going to roll back down into a supine position. We're going to go into something referred to as the bossy rock. Lift the arms up overhead, peel up head, neck, and shoulders, and float the legs up as if you were going into the 100 position with your legs out to 45 degrees. You're going to roll back to the shoulder blades with the legs lifting in the air, and then rock forward, your legs coming down towards the mat. And we're maintaining this position of the body, legs out nice and straight, nice and rounded through the core as we rock back and forth. This is one that doesn't look like much, but it sure feels like a lot. Going into the open leg rocker now. Inhaling as you roll back, and exhale as you roll forward and lift. Unlike rolling like a ball at the top of the open leg rocker, we want to expand and straighten through the back, chest lifting and opening, and then C-curve through the spine as we roll back. Legs remain nice and straight, and we're holding on somewhere between the knee and the ankle on the calf. Here at the top, zip the legs together, roll down onto the back, and go straight into the roll over. Beginning with the feet pointed and the legs together, we'll roll over, flex the heels and take the feet about hip distance apart and roll down. Toes are pointed as you roll over and flexed as you roll down. This is a movement of lift and articulation through the spine and not of thrusting. Make sure that you are peeling off one vertebrae at a time, lifting those legs, and that you're melting down onto the mat one vertebrae at a time. This kind of control and abdominal strength takes time and practice. Lift the arms up overhead, lengthen the feet to the mat, and we'll just take a moment here to stretch the body out long. Next, we'll be moving into a supine spine stretch. Float the legs up into a tabletop position, arms out to the side, and on our inhalation, we're going to float those knees off to one side. Exhale, use the abdominal muscles to bring the knees back over top of the hips. Thinking about as we stretch off to one side, keeping that opposite shoulder down and not following the legs, and getting a nice twist through the spine as we do so. Remember to tie in your breath, inhaling as you reach out. Exhale, control the core and pull everything back in and up. It's a stretch to one side and a strength movement as we lift everything back into alignment. Next, we're going to continue strengthening through the abdominals. We're going to reach one leg out straight, close and low down towards the mat, and then pull it back in. You can leave your arms out to the side, or you can bring them in close to the body, keeping the shoulders rolled down and reaching the fingertips away. We're going to reach and lengthen a leg straight and then draw it back in. We want to stabilize through the trunk, keep everything still, except for that moving leg. Now bring both feet down onto the mat. We're going to peel up one vertebrae at a time as we lift the pelvis off the mat just slightly, and then roll back down and rock the pelvis to neutral. Imprint the low back into the spine, lift the glutes off just barely off the mat, and then make sure that you rock that pelvis back to a neutral position. This is going to feel great for moving that low back, particularly if you feel stiff in your low back a lot. This is a movement that's fantastic first thing in the morning or last thing at night, or anytime that you're feeling stiff and tight. We're not rolling into a full bridge, but we are rocking and slightly lifting the glutes. Imprint, press that low back in, and then tilt and lift the pelvis off just slightly. And then as we lower it back down, we're going to let our pelvis shift back to neutral. So you get a nice rock back and forth of the pelvis, which is wonderful for the low back. And now we're going to start bringing that up into a full bridge. So we're going to imprint the low back and peel off one vertebrae at a time until we're a straight line from the shoulders down to the knees. And then we melt back down and rock back to neutral. Coming into this bridge position shouldn't feel hard or bad for your low back. If you think about imprinting that pelvis, peeling off with articulation one vertebrae at a time, and melting back down with one vertebrae at a time, and then rocking back to neutral. This becomes very much a part of spinal movement and core that should be good for the spine, rather than thinking about thrusting the hips upward. On this next one, we're going to hold that bridge up at the top, and we're going to take little dips through the hips and then press back up. So we're really working through the glutes and hamstrings here, taking small dips and then pressing back up into that straight line from the shoulders to the knees. And finally rolling down all the way down towards the mat. And next into the shoulder bridge, where we extend that leg up straight over top of the hip and then lower in line with the other leg and lift again. Stabilize that body while the leg moves back and forth. Bend that leg back in, replace the foot, and roll down through the spine. Coming to the other side, peeling up, floating up the other leg, extending long, and reaching. Sometimes we add in a flex through the heel on the way down and a point as we lift up. Today I'm simply keeping my foot pointed. Bend, replace the foot, and roll down through the spine one vertebrae at a time. Float the knees up here and peel up head, neck, and shoulders. We're moving into the double leg stretch. Lengthen the legs and the arms out long. Snow angel the arms back into the legs as you pull back into that ball shape. Maintain a neutral spine here. Make sure that you're not tilting through your back or flaring through the ribs. And keep the head, neck, and shoulders tucked forward. Transitioning to crisscross, hands behind the head. You're going to reach the opposite elbow beyond the opposite knee as you lengthen the leg away. Remember not to think of this one as a workout bicycle, but the Pilates crisscross, where we're thinking about taking that knee beyond, or the elbow beyond the knee, and now into the double straight leg stretch. Keep those hands behind the head, elbows wide, lengthen the legs away, and lift back up, maintaining that neutral spine. So much core strength is required to stabilize in this movement while you move the legs. Lowering the legs to the floor, and we're going to roll up to seated. Preparing here for the leg pull up. Taking the hands back behind, fingertips facing forward. We're going to lift that body into a back support or a reverse plank. And today we're going to be lifting, alternating the feet, taking straight up and lowering down. Watch those feet that they don't turn out or roll out to the side, and try to keep them centered as much as possible. Lower down the body here, and then we'll press back up. We're taking just slight dips and then pressing tall and straight through the arms, allowing the hips to come down, and then pressing the whole way back up into that reverse plank shape. Lowering down here, we're going to lift up and stretch forward over the legs. And come next into the boomerang, crossing one ankle. We're going to place the hands, lift the legs, and float for just a moment. Roll over, cross the legs, pull through to teaser, reach the arms back, open the chest, and boomerang reach forward. We just transition back and forth here, making sure that the cross of the feet happens when your feet are overhead and that you're even on both sides. If you want to see more detailed instruction for the boomerang, you can check out right here in the upper right-hand corner my boomerang how-to video, which will teach you how to learn this exercise and progress at all levels. And for more how-to videos, you can join my Mat Pilates tier on Patreon. Now coming side lying on the mat, stacking hip over hip and shoulder over shoulder. Right arm down, hand supported to support the head, and top arm in front. We're going to lift those legs, staying in a nice straight line. We're going to lift both legs together. Think about those legs zipping together as if you had a mermaid tail rather than two individual legs. We'll float both up and lift and lower down. Now we're going to keep the top leg lifted and let the bottom leg float down to the mat and then lift back up to meet the top. Focus on a nice straight line of the body during this movement. Now swinging those legs forward to the front corner of your mat. We're going to take the front leg or the top leg and sweep forward and then reach back. It's a big stretch forward and kind of a smaller range to reach back. We want to stabilize the body as much as possible. Restacking the legs here, we're going to go down up. So we're going to keep that knee facing forward, legs parallel, hip closed, and we're going to lift and lower the leg. Resist that urge or temptation to twist the knee or the foot up towards the sky, externally rotating. Keep it all facing forward. Now we're sweeping that leg forward here and keeping it parallel. Your knee facing up towards you, not up towards the sky, and the ankle is straight out from the hip. We're lowering and lifting here, and this creates a lot more challenge in you balancing and stabilizing, so you may find that you need to press more firmly into that hand that's resting on the mat. We are working the glutes in a different and very specific location. Now we're going to bring that leg back in line and float the heel up to hip level while we take tiny controlled circles to the front. And now reversing direction to the back. These are tight, tiny, and controlled. Now lifting that leg up into the air, we're gonna reach out, grab on at the ankle, and just hold a nice stretch. We've worked and lengthened through the legs, and now this stretch feels fantastic. We're going to go ahead and switch over to the other side. What we do to one side, of course, we must do to the other. So lining up in a straight line of the body here. We're going to lift and lower both of those legs together. We're keeping hips stacked over top of hip, shoulder over shoulder. Top hand is pressing down into the mat. Bottom arm, the elbow is to the mat, and the hand is supporting the head. We're trying to keep that torso as stable and steady as possible. Top leg stays where it is, bottom leg lift and lowers. The real challenge here is to keep that top leg from moving and to stabilize the body while we work the inner thigh of our bottom leg. Now sweeping those legs forward towards the corner of your mat. Lift the top leg to about hip level and we'll sweep forward and back. You may notice some unevenness in your body, that one side is harder for you to stabilize through your trunk while you sweep forward and back. This side for me is easier than the first side. If you're having a lot of trouble stabilizing during this movement in particular, flexing through the heel of the bottom leg can really help you here. Now stacking those legs back up together, we're going to lift and lower, remembering to keep that knee parallel, facing forward and hip closed. Now sweeping the foot straight out from the hip, we're going to lift and lower here. Again, in this direction, it will be harder to stabilize and hold your body in control, but this angle is fantastic for getting that glute in a different spot. And finally, we're going to those tiny controlled circles here. So we're going to lift the foot about level with the hip, and we're going to take those tiny, tight, controlled circles to the front, and then reversing direction and taking them to the back. Make sure that you circle in both directions evenly. And lifting that leg up to stretch. Reach out and grab on at the ankle. Stretch and lengthen through the leg. Now we're rolling over to a prone position on the stomach. Lengthen the arms out long and the legs out long. We're going to go into slow swimmers. So we're going to lift opposite arm, opposite leg, lengthen, and then lower back down towards the mat. Really working and strengthening through the muscles of the back here. And we're also taking coordination of taking that opposite arm, opposite leg. As much as I love the Pilates swimming exercise, I believe I love these slow swimmers where we really take one side at a time even more. Now press back towards rest pose, or you may refer to this as child's pose. Right here, we're going to step out into a plank position. We're going to lift one leg, take a push-up, lift the leg higher in the air, and reset. Lift a leg, float, push up, and at the top, lift the leg higher and reset. If you find this too challenging to take a push-up with a single leg, then simply keep both toes down to the mat for your push-up and then lift a leg in the air in between. Come back to rest pose here. This is a great time to wipe your hands if they're getting a bit sweaty on the mat. Now we're coming back and stepping into a plank, and then we're opening up to a side plank and going into the side bend. Lift the hips high, reach and angle up and over, and then dip the hips down towards the mat. Reset and reach. Wonderful strengthening exercise for the side body, the obliques. We're switching sides here, and of course we're working through the upper body and arms as well. It's plenty of work to hold a side plank, but to bring it into this very active side bend requires us to work and control so much. If you're finding that the side bend is not happening, holding a side plank could be a nice modification. Pressing back here towards rest pose. Now we're going to lift up and reach the hips up high into a pike position, and then lengthen out into a plank and lift back up. Make sure as you come forward towards the plank that you're coming into a nice straight line, full plank, and then reaching back pike. We'll just take these two positions back and forth. Dropping down to the knees here and reaching back towards rest pose. We're going to enter here our stretching for stillness portion of this mat session. So sitting up tall, we're just sitting kneeling here. We're going to just place the hands lightly on the legs for just a moment, calm ourselves, and then we're moving into thoracic or lateral breathing. We're going to place those fingertips together, touching here, and as we breathe and expand, inhaling, we're going to feel our rib cage expanding and our fingertips moving away. On the exhale, that's going to draw and knit the rib cage and the fingers back together. Placing the hands here can really gauge where you're at in your breathing. If you're not familiar with thoracic or lateral breathing, look in the upper right hand corner for a video that I have teaching you how to breathe in Pilates. Let's add some movement. Side bend, one hand coming to the mat, the other arm reaching up and out of the hip, over the body. Lift and come to the other side. And now we're going to kneel nice and tall, a high kneel here, and reach through the back. We're circling the right hand back to place on the right palm of the foot, and then lift the left arm in the air. Reach back and take your gaze with your hand. Lift up, sweep the arms back, and let's go to the other side. Left arm circles back and places on the left foot. And we reach and stretch the right arm up overhead. And circle that back up to the front. Right here, we're coming in to thread the needle. So we're taking the left arm and reaching it out, palm up to the sky. Left shoulder blade placed on the floor. Right hand reaches up overhead, and we're thinking about reaching back beyond the head. Nice twist through the spine. Let's go ahead and unwind and come to the other side. Right shoulder drops to the mat. Right arm is extended with the palm facing up to the sky. The left arm is reaching back beyond the head. As we twist and stretch, breathe into that. Keep focused here on a steady stream of breath, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Push back into rest pose here. Hands reaching out long, sinking in, forehead, releasing down to the mat. Steady breathing, clear the mind. Now we're coming into frog. We're reaching those knees out wide, coming down to the forearms and sending the hips backward. Any places where we feel muscular resistance or strain as we're stretching, we just want to breathe into, send that oxygen there. Relax as much as possible through the body. Bringing those knees back in together. we're going to bring the palms of the feet together and sink down towards the forearms, just reaching forward with the body gently and allowing the knees to release and come down closer to the ground as you breathe into this stretch. Now we're going to straighten the left leg out in front while we keep the right foot where it is. Take a little lean forward. We're just unfolding a single leg. Return the left foot. Same thing on the right side. Reach that leg out long. Lean forward and breathe deeply. Lifting up out of that stretch, we're going to lengthen both legs out long in front. And we're just taking those feet approximately hip distance apart and folding our body forward, breathing deeply into the stretch. Lifting up tall through the spine. We're going to come into a lunge now. Left foot forward, right foot reaching back. Make sure that that knee stays tracking over top of the ankle and not over top of the toes. Sink in and stretch those hip flexors. Nice and tall through the spine. Feel free to gently close the eyes or keep them just unfocused here. Now, tucking the back toes, we're going to straighten that right leg off of the ground, staying in this lunge. Hands are down at the mat, surrounding the foot. Drop the right knee and take the left leg back. Same thing on the other side. Right foot steps forward, reaching into that lunge. Nice and tall through the spine. Your muscles may be trembling in these stretches, but you are stable and secure. Hands come down to the mat. And you tuck the back toes and lift that back knee off, straightening through the leg. Lower down the back knee. And come back to rest pose. Sink in here and breathe and reflect on how wonderful it feels to move and to stretch and to take a moment for yourself, body and mind. Thank you for joining me in the Benniebarre Pilates studio today for this Mat Pilates session and stretching with stillness. Please feel free to come back anytime. If there's anything that you would love to see, let me know in the comments below.